This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, January 16th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Biden bids farewell to America.
But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come.
I'm Pamela Furr.
Reacting to a ceasefire deal reached in the Middle East.
The ceasefire and the hostage deal has been reached.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Los Angeles residents remain on alert and firefighters remain diligent.
Suspect admitted to setting multiple fires.
I'm Julie Walker.
And Bondi in the hot seat as Trump cabinet confirmation hearings continue.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off their best day in more than 2 months on strong bank earnings and contained inflation. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Turner taken out of his intelligence chair and more musical artists added for the inauguration. All ahead on America in the Morning. After 50 years in politics, including 36 in the Senate, another 8 as vice president, and the past 4 years as commander-in-chief, President Joe Biden delivered his farewell address to the nation. Pamela Furr has the story.
My fellow Americans,
The one-term president gave a nearly 19-minute speech reflecting on his time in the Oval Office.
it will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come.
He began by celebrating the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
This plan was developed and negotiated by my team, and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans.
Biden listed some of his accomplishments, like lowering prescription drug prices for seniors, passing gun safety laws, and better health care for veterans. His speech also warned of what he called a dangerous concern of the concentration of power at the hands of a few ultra-wealthy people.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead.
Now, the president didn't say exactly who he was referring to, but most believe it was the world's richest man, Elon Musk, who is about to have a clear line to the White House. In his closing remarks, Biden ended on an optimistic note, telling Americans to carry forward his hopeful vision for
I
America.
still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith.
Vice President Kamala Harris, her husband, First Lady Jill Biden, son Hunter, and his wife were all nearby President Biden in the Oval Office for this final address. I'm Pamela Furr.
The world is reacting after more than a year of daily battles to a U.S. brokered ceasefire deal in the Middle East. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
After 15 months of fighting, a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas has been reached.
Because at long last, I can announce a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas.
President Biden announcing the 3-phase deal facilitated by mediators from Egypt and Qatar and proposed by the U.S.
Phase 1 will last 6 weeks. It includes a full and complete ceasefire, withdrawal of Israeli forces from all the populated areas of Gaza, and the release of a number of hostages held by Hamas, including women and elderly and the wounded. And I'm proud to say Americans will be part of that hostage release in phase 1 as well.
A second phase would see a permanent end to the war and the release of the remaining hostages. In the third phase, a major reconstruction plan would begin for Gaza. Since the October 7th attacks by Hamas in Israel, it's believed more than 45,000 people have been killed in Israel's offensive in Gaza. To date, 117 hostages have been released. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller touting the work of the Biden administration to get a deal done before the president leaves office.
This ceasefire agreement is an agreement that was conceived of by this administration, that this administration traveled the world to garner support for, and that members from Secretary Blinken on down put their credibility behind.
President-elect Donald Trump taking credit, too. He posted on social media that, quote, "We've achieved so much without even being in the White House." Miller addressed questions about that notion.
When it comes to the involvement of President-elect Trump's team, it has been absolutely critical in getting this deal over the line. And it's been critical because, obviously, as I stand here today, this administration's term in office will expire in 5 days.
The UN and others now activating humanitarian relief to take advantage of the pause in fighting. I'm Clayton Neville.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better together. It's the lowest price of the season on the top-selling Sleep Number i8 smart bed. Limited time, exclusively at a Sleep Number store. Dems attack Bondi in Senate confirmation hearing. That when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Rain and snow are part of this system that AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton is looking at. Here's the forecast.
The most widespread chance for precipitation through the day today stretches from the Great Lakes into the northeast as a fairly weak but intensifying storm heads toward the east coast. This feature will be able to spark snow showers and even some areas of steadier snow from the upper peninsula of Michigan south and eastward along its path, but the highest risk for accumulating snow, generally 1 to 3 inches, will be from Michigan through much of West Virginia, northern and western Pennsylvania, and western New York as the steadiest snow struggles to cross the mountains and approach the coast. However, there can be some snow showers this evening toward portions of the Delmarva Peninsula, Long Island, and even southern New England as the storm exits out to sea, and snow can still linger west of the mountains overnight as well. The vast majority of the rest of the country has a dry Thursday in store, but 2 zones can have some showers to contend with through the day. In the south, a storm that has meandered around the Gulf of Mexico in recent days will continue to be the focus for showers over southern Louisiana early today, with some spotty wet weather over northern Florida too. Southern parts of the Florida Peninsula stand the risk for some afternoon showers. In the northwest, a cold front arriving from the north and west brings some showers to western Washington state, with some mountain snow through the north-central part of the state. Dry conditions also continue over Southern California, but as the winds weaken and shift to more of an onshore direction, the ongoing fires won't be able to spread as quickly as the moisture from the Pacific Ocean increases relative humidity levels over the region. In Salt Lake City, look for sunshine today and a high of 42. In Detroit, snow gradually tapers to flurries after 1 to 2 inches of accumulation, otherwise cloudy skies with a high of 32. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. There was some positive news in Los Angeles as firefighters are making gains controlling 2 massive blazes still burning, despite also fighting strong Santa Ana winds. Correspondent Julie Walker reports the weather will continue to play a factor in dealing with the fires.
Los Angeles residents remain on alert and firefighters remain diligent. CAL FIRE Assistant Chief Sagar Meghani says progress has been steady.
In the past 24 hours, there's been little to no fire growth on both incidents.
And more favorable weather is expected by week's end, but LA City Fire Chief Kristen Crowley says for those wanting to return to their neighborhoods, they may have to wait.
We understand your desire to return to your community. However, significant safety and infrastructure issues remain.
Meanwhile, arrests continue, says LA Police Chief Jim McDonnell, including for arson.
Suspect admitted to setting multiple fires that day and stated that she enjoyed causing chaos and destruction.
He says she was one of 2 people arrested Tuesday for arson. Both fires were quickly put out. I'm Julie Walker.
Contentious hearings on Capitol Hill for Donald Trump's cabinet nominees. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani has a look at Pam Bondi's Senate confirmation hearing to become Attorney General.
Donald Trump's Attorney General nominee says the Justice Department went after the president-elect, and that kind of thing would not happen on her watch. at her Senate confirmation hearing.
They targeted Donald Trump.
And Pam Bondi says if she becomes Attorney General,
I will not politicize that office.
Bondi is a longtime Trump loyalist, and Democrats like Dick Durbin worry she'd oversee investigations at Trump's urging, with him vowing retribution against enemies.
I need to know that you would tell the president no if you're asked to do something that is wrong, illegal, or unconstitutional.
Bondi later did not answer directly when asked what she'd do if career prosecutors recommended bringing a criminal case, but the White House said no.
Senator, if I thought that would happen, I would not be sitting here today.
Insisting her client is the American people and not the president. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Elon Musk sued by the Securities and Exchange Commission. That story and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Stocks are coming off a big rally yesterday, their best day in more than 2 months. Investors really like the strong earnings from the big banks like JP Morgan Chase and Citigroup. They also like the December CPI, inflation at the consumer level. It was somewhat contained after rising for a few months, which scared investors that to cool it, the Fed would have to start raising interest rates again.
It's a good number. You can see how concerned the market has been with this possibility that inflation was going to get out of control. So this now sort of says, all right, the Fed can be on hold, but we don't have to talk about the idea of hiking rates.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman. Overall consumer inflation running at about 2.9%. Bond yields eased yesterday. Mortgage rates follow the 10-year Treasury, so mortgage rates eased a little, falling from their highest since last May.
The average rate on the 30-year fix dropped to 7.13%, according to Mortgage News Daily. Still not great, but better. Yesterday's rate was the highest since last May. Rates had been rising sharply since early December. Now, mortgage demand from home buyers still weaker than it was last year, as rates are now higher than they were last year. And it's not just rates. Home prices are still higher. In fact, Fannie Mae just put out a report showing price gains actually accelerated from Q3 to Q4 of last year.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Bitcoin was back above 100,000. Oil popped. WTI, West Texas Intermediate, above $80 a barrel, which means higher gas prices could be right around the corner. Elon Musk being sued by the Securities and Exchange Commission, which claims Musk didn't properly disclose the shares in Twitter he bought before he bought the whole company at an artificially low price.
Before buying Twitter for $44 billion in 2022, changing its name to X the following year, Musk amassed more than 5% of its stock, which required a disclosure. The SEC's civil complaint saying that Musk was more than 10 days late in reporting that material information, allowing him to underpay by at least $150 million. The big question here is what will happen to these charges when the Trump administration takes over the SEC, which is next week.
CNBC's Julia Borston. Capital One accused of cheating customers out of more than $2 billion in interest by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which says the bank used deceptive marketing practices to obscure savings account interest rates. Capital One denies the allegations. Disney won the 2024 box office with 3 big films, Deadpool and Wolverine, Inside Out 2, and Moana 2. Disney racked up a quarter of all movie ticket sales last year. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from United Health, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and Taiwan Semi. We find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week, and we get the latest retail sales numbers.
All right, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, musical guests performing on Inauguration Day after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. Speaker Mike Johnson removed Congressman Mike Turner as chair of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Conservative hardliners in the House and others loyal to President-elect Donald Trump had been pressing Johnson for months to oust the Ohio Republican. Turner's been outspoken in his favor for Ukraine funding. Johnson is expected to name Turner's replacement on the Intelligence Committee today, with Pennsylvania's Scott Perry or Ronnie Jackson of Texas as likely successors. More names are being added to the musical lineup leading up to and on Donald Trump's Inauguration Day on Monday. Correspondent Donna Warder has the list.
Kid Rock, Redneck Paradise, Rascal Flatts, I got a lot of Hey, I'm Sorry, and Jason Aldean are just three of the big-name performers who'll be in Washington, D.C. to perform on Donald Trump's Inauguration Day Monday, or events over the weekend. On Sunday, Lee Greenwood will be at a Make America Great Again rally at Capital One Arena in downtown Washington. He says he's excited to sing yet again for his friend Donald Trump. Aldean, a five-time Grammy nominee, is scheduled to perform at the Liberty Ball Monday night alongside the Village People. Earlier in the day, Carrie Underwood will sing America the Beautiful at Trump's swearing-in ceremony. Donna Warder, Washington.
America in the Morning for Thursday, January 16th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Both President Biden and President-elect Trump are claiming credit for the Gaza ceasefire deal. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Trump's picks grilled by lawmakers. I'm Clayton Neville.
Minnesota Democrats boycotted the first day of the Minnesota House. I'm Sue Aller.
The Transportation Department is stepping up enforcement of persistent flight delays. I'm Haya Panjwani.
A lawsuit heard for control of Southern Methodist University.
The proverbial clock is ticking on TikTok. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Which celebrities are making donations for relief efforts in Southern California? I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning. Mother Nature providing some assistance today in those California wildfires. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A pattern change will finally bring some relief from this devastating long-duration fire event across Southern California starting today, along with a chance for firefighters to gain the upper hand as they battle to contain and extinguish the blazes. Lighter winds are expected in the area not only today but through Sunday, helping to keep the fires from spreading so quickly. Those winds will shift to more of an onshore direction as well, leading to an increase in relative humidity that should also help the situation across the region. Unfortunately, no storms are expected to bring precipitation to Southern California anytime soon to further help to finally put out the fires. Dry conditions are expected across the remainder of the West, the Plains, and just about all of the Midwest as well today, thanks to broad areas of high pressure in place over the Central Rockies and the South. The one exception will be the Pacific Northwest, where a storm diving across southwestern Canada carries a cold front into the region that should spark some showers over western Washington today. There may be some mountain snow for mainly northern parts of the Washington Cascades, and as this storm intensifies through the day, it is not out of the question that some snow can even sneak into western Montana by sunset. Showers are expected to continue at times from the central Gulf Coast toward mainly northern portions of the Florida Peninsula, but the nation's most active weather will be in the Great Lakes and the Northeast, where a disturbance tracking toward the coast will drag some areas of snow from Michigan toward the New York City metropolitan area by this evening. Snowfall of at least 1 to 3 inches is expected from northeastern Pennsylvania along the New York border across much of western Pennsylvania into northeastern Indiana and Michigan, with higher totals possible downwind of Lake Michigan and Erie. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Still, many more details to iron out after 15 months of fierce fighting in the Gaza Strip. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a 3-phase ceasefire and hostage release deal, which was made with the assistance of envoys of both President Biden and President-elect Trump. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports both sides still have more work to do to keep the ceasefire holding.
In Qatar,
this deal will bring us peace.
And at the White House.
Fighting in Gaza will stop, and soon the hostages will return home to their families.
President Biden says that includes Americans Hamas took during the October attack on Israel. The announcement set off celebrations in Tel Aviv and Gaza. Qatar says the ceasefire will take effect Sunday, with hostages freed in stages. The president says the ceasefire will stay in place as long as Israel and Hamas keep talking about a long-term truce.
There are a number of details to negotiate to move from phase 1 to phase 2, but the plan says if negotiations take longer than 6 weeks, the ceasefire will continue as long as the negotiations continue.
Both President Biden and President-elect Trump are claiming credit for the Gaza ceasefire deal. As word first spread, Trump called it an epic agreement that could only have happened because of his November win. He'd been pressuring Hamas with threats over what would happen if hostages weren't freed by the time he took office.
If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Can you elaborate? And it will not be good for Hamas. And it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out.
At the White House,
this is the exact framework of the deal I proposed back in May.
President Biden says while his administration negotiated the deal, it worked closely with Trump's Mideast envoy, noting the incoming administration will have to help oversee the deal's implementation.
This deal was developed and negotiated under my administration, but its terms will be implemented, for the most part, by the next administration. In these past few days, we've been speaking as one team.
But when asked whom the history books will credit for the agreement,
is that a joke?
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Lawmakers continue to meet on Capitol Hill with multiple Senate committees holding confirmation hearings for President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picks. Correspondent Clayton Neville is following activity.
For 6 hours, President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General Pam Bondi took questions from lawmakers. She slammed moves by the Biden administration like recent pardons.
I would love to look at that process. I can tell you that the pardons, the commutations that Joe Biden just made were abhorrent to me, absolutely abhorrent, taking people off death row. I looked at the facts of many of those cases, and they were so troubling to me. I don't know what process you intend to implement, but I would love to study that with you.
She laid out her priorities.
We have got to reduce violent crime, and we have got to restore integrity to our law enforcement officers.
There were some contentious moments when Democratic senators suggested that Bondi's loyalty to Trump could interfere with her job. She also refused to say, when pressed, that Trump lost the 2020 election to President Biden. Meanwhile, Trump's pick for CIA Director John Ratcliffe told senators he'll focus on the mission, meaning national security priorities over political considerations.
If you look at my record, and my record as DNI, that never took place. That is never something anyone has alleged, and it's something that I would never do. So I would approach this position very much the same way and provide the same assurance.
Secretary of State pick Senator Marco Rubio called for bold diplomacy and said the war between Russia and Ukraine needs to end now. And Senator Pete Ricketts asked Senator Rubio about the threat from China.
The Communist Party of China leads the PRC, is the most potent and dangerous near-peer adversary this nation has ever confronted. They have elements that the Soviet Union never possessed.
It was a jam-packed day of confirmation hearings. Chris Wright, President-elect Trump's pick for Energy Secretary, told senators he'd promote all sources of American energy while also suggesting the burning of fossil fuels causes climate change. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy also testified, but South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem did not. She reportedly finished all necessary paperwork ahead of a hearing, but the Senate committee is still waiting for the FBI's portion to get done. I'm Clayton Neville.
Standoff in the Minnesota State House as Sue Aller reports the chaotic battle over who'll have control and who'll be Speaker is now moving to the courts, and both sides will be funded by the Minnesota taxpayers.
It's a power struggle. Democrats boycotted the first session of the year to try to block Republicans from conducting quorum. After a roll call, Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon declared there weren't enough members to do business.
Mr. Secretary, the House may not conduct any further business, and the House of Representatives Mr. is Secretary, adjourned.
Simon went to the state Supreme Court and asked them to intervene. House Republicans ignored Simon and conducted official business anyway.
And I therefore declare Representative Lisa Dameth duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
The House of Representatives is evenly split 67 to 67. Democrat Brad Tabke won a House seat in November by just 14 votes. During a recount, 20 missing ballots were discovered. Republicans asked for a special election on January 28th, which would give Republicans a temporary 67 to 66 majority. But a judge ruled that Tabke's victory stands. Despite this, Republicans are refusing to seat Tabke, hoping to force a special election, which has caused tension. Democrats are even calling it an attempted coup. The newly elected speaker told Fox News she hopes both parties can work together.
We look forward to working with them over the next 2 years in a reasonable way.
I'm Sue Aller.
U.S. government issues Social Security checks to dead people. And stopping the clock on TikTok. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The Texas Supreme Court heard a case that could pave the way for who controls Southern Methodist University. The justices heard from the university and the South Central Jurisdictional Conference. At issue is control of the Dallas-based university, either the school's Board of Trustees or the church, which comes after the church voted to keep its ban on recognizing same-sex marriages and ordaining clergy who are members of the LGBTQ community. The SMU Board of Trustees had voted to amend the school's Articles of Incorporation, something the SCJC says are invalid. Southwest Airlines being sued by the U.S. government, while another budget carrier is being fined for what it called chronically delayed flights. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
The Transportation Department is stepping up enforcement of persistent flight delays with a civil lawsuit against Southwest Airlines and a fine against Frontier Airlines. The agency said in a federal lawsuit it filed in California that Southwest illegally operated chronically delayed flights and disrupted passengers' travel plans. The department said its investigation found that Dallas-based Southwest operated 2 chronically delayed flights, one between Chicago Midway International Airport and Oakland, California, and another between Baltimore, Maryland, and Cleveland, Ohio. Both flights were chronically delayed for 5 straight months and together resulted in 180 flight disruptions for passengers between April and August of 2022. I'm Haya Panjwani.
It clearly wasn't just one check. Government officials say so far they've recovered tens of millions of dollars in Social Security payments paid to dead people. And that may be just the tip of the iceberg. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
The U.S. government says so far it has recovered more than $31 million in Social Security payments that were erroneously given to dead people. The money was reclaimed as part of a pilot program after Congress gave the Treasury Department access to the Social Security Administration's full master file of dead people going back to 1899. The Treasury Department projects it'll recover more than $215 million during the 3-year period it has access to the federal database, which ends at the end of 2026. Donna Warder, Washington.
President Biden has designated 2 new national monuments in California, presumably to preserve desert mountain habitat. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
At a White House ceremony, President Biden signed the designations creating Chuckwalla National Monument near Joshua Tree and the Satitla Highlands National Monument in Northern California's Klamath region.
Of wildlife habitat and sacred ancestral lands.
The declarations protect a combined total of over 1,300 square miles, with natural wonders like the Painted Canyon of Mecca Hills and rare plants and animals like desert bighorn sheep and the Chuckwalla lizard.
Lavender flowers, lizards, mountain lions, bats, bighorn sheep, owls, desert short tortoises. I mean, this is incredible what's there.
Many Native American tribes and environmental groups have pushed for designation of the sites, which are part of the president's efforts to cement an environmental legacy.
I'm proud to have kept my commitment to protect more land and water than any president in American history.
The event was supposed to take place with a speech last week in the eastern Coachella Valley, but was postponed as deadly wildfires struck the Los Angeles area. Jennifer King, Washington.
President-elect Trump is asking for a last-minute stay to the end of TikTok this Sunday, but the Supreme Court may have already decided its fate. Following details, our Chuck Palm in today's Tech News.
TikTok may be waving the white flag of surrender and potentially getting ready to shut down its operations this Sunday. Barring any last-minute reprieve, a federal ban is set to take effect, shutting out 170 million Americans and most digital download stores from being able to use or install the TikTok application. TikTok has stated they will allow users to download their content and has decided to keep offices open until an appeal is considered or President-elect Trump steps in with a 60 to 90-day stay. The tricky part? The ban takes effect one day before the president takes office. President Trump has stated he would like to save the TikTok app, and there are still offers on the table to acquire TikTok from ByteDance by an American investor. TikTok users who have downloaded the app theoretically still will be able to use it, except that the law bars companies from providing services that enable the distribution, maintenance, or updating of the application. For the latest tech news, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Time for Thursday Sports. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
NBA last night, the Raptors topped the Celtics 110-97, their first win over Boston in nearly 3 years. Knicks nipped the 76ers 125-119 in overtime, 38 for Jalen Brunson, 16 of those coming in the fourth quarter and OT. Rockets rolled the Nuggets 128-108 for their fifth straight win, Coach Ime Udoka.
Love the extra passes, the ball movement. It's the same shots we were getting early in the season that we weren't knocking down. We're making them at a higher clip right now, obviously, 45% from three tonight.
Clippers demolished the Nets 126-67, the largest margin of victory in franchise history. Wins for the Pelicans, Hawks, Bucks, Grizzlies, Lakers, Warriors, and Hornets. College basketball, number 2 Iowa State blew by number 9 Kansas 74-57. That's 12 straight wins for the Cyclones. Top 10 wins for number 6 Tennessee and number 10 Houston. NHL, the Sabres slashed the Hurricanes 4-2. Ryan McLeod with a hat trick. Oilers whipped the Wild 5-3 for their 7th win in the last 8 games. 2 goals and an assist for Connor McDavid. Big football weekend coming up. The NFL's divisional round begins Saturday with the top 2 seeds entering the fray. The Chiefs hosting the Texans and the Lions welcome the Commanders. Sunday it's the Rams and the Eagles and the Ravens at the Bills. College football's national championship game is Monday night in Atlanta, Notre Dame and Ohio State. 22 new members have been elected to the College Football Hall of Fame, including former coaches Nick Saban and Urban Meyer in their first time on the ballot. 2 other coaches and 18 players, including Michael Vick and Michael Strahan, will be inducted next December in ceremonies in Las Vegas. That's Thursday Sports.
Thank you, sir. A helping hand for those outplaced by the California wildfires when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. From the lesser-known common folks to well-known celebrities and businesses, too, have all joined together to help victims of the Los Angeles area wildfires, including some who've lost their homes or had their production schedules stopped due to the inferno. Kevin Carr reports.
In the wake of these Southern California wildfires, celebrities and businesses are donating time and money to relief efforts. Eva Longoria posted on Instagram that she will be matching $50,000 in funds for This Is Humanity.
Personally, I'm going to be giving another $50,000 on top of that.
This week, she announced she will also be donating $1 million from a grant from Jeff Bezos to help wildfire victims. Sharon Stone has organized a donation center in L.A., she told News Nation last week.
We recognize as well that this will get better if we all help each other.
Jamie Lee Curtis, who thought she had lost her home, was on The Tonight Show last week to call for support.
The American Red Cross, support them. They will come in and help people. Do anything you can.
Afterward, she and her husband, Christopher Guest, pledged $1 million to start a fund for wildfire victims. Other celebrities like Beyonce, Leonardo DiCaprio, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and Halle Berry have made donations. Paris Hilton is focusing on the four-legged victims of the fire, working with the Pasadena Humane Society to reunite pets with their owners. She even adopted a new dog for herself.
We're going to be fostering another dog who was surrendered by his family, who lost their home in the fire.
Tech giants Google and YouTube pledged $15 million. Amazon has pledged $10 million. Musical groups like the Eagles and Metallica will perform at or have given money to Fire Aid, a relief concert. And multiple LA sports teams have donated $8 million. I'm Kevin Carr.
The Manhattan brownstone, made famous by TV's Sex and the City, is getting a gate to protect it from tourists. Correspondent Julie Walker reports the fencing comes as fans of the show are going to extreme measures to take pictures.
The brownstone Carrie Bradshaw, made famous in Sex and the City.
Through everything, the apartment that had always been there for me
is getting an iron fence for its stoop after years of tourists trespassing on it to take pictures. Owner Barbara Lorber was emotional, testifying before the city's Landmarks Preservation Commission.
That house shouldn't be gated, excuse me. But what was beautiful in the late 19th century is unfortunately in need of more protection.
Lorber and neighbors say hordes of tourists are there nonstop, even trying to get into the Perry Street house.
Take all the pictures you wish standing on the street, but please don't climb into our space and into our windows.
The commission approved the addition of a gate to the home, which sits in a historic district in the West Village. Julie Walker, New York.
America in the Morning for Thursday, January 16th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.